everybody, this is Perch, and this is a hot take that a friend and I were talking about in mail, and I have suspect a friend's going to do a video on it, so we'll see if that's true. A friend? I haven't bought this person a beer. Can I call this person a friend? I don't know. I don't know. I'm throwing out words too casually here. Hey, by the way, something else completely blew my mind. Has nothing to do with comics, but I'm going to throw this out there as well because this is the kind of stuff that will start war. Similar to the Arby's situation, very, very polarized views on Arby's. I saw this little clip. I'm going to try and grab Brian. We can debate it for 10 minutes. So I have nothing to do with comics. It'll be fun. Um, Guy was basically putting out the hot take that Olive Garden was better than Red Lobster. And I will tell you, I was in hard disagreement with that whole point of view. I mean, how are you going against Red Lobster? Red Lobster is great. But then he threw out 2 points that I can't argue against. And number one is that tank in the front of the Red Lobster. That's not where they're getting the food from. The lobsters are pre-frozen in the back. That's just a show. That's and I remember I have memories as a kid of you could go out and you'd pick the lobster and they'd grab it and they'd take it into the back and I'm like, I'm going to eat that thing I just picked out, and that was part of the show. But now I've taken my kids to Red Lobster, wanting to torture them in the same way with animal cruelty and death, and they're like, no, the lobsters in the tank are for show. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, our lobsters are pre-frozen in the back, and I'm like, pre-frozen lobster, garbage. Anyway, so that's point number one, which is a solid point. And point number two is like, it's not 96 anymore. And that is another good point because the Red Lobster in the 90s and earlier was untouchable, kind of like comics. But today it is a shadow of itself, kind of like comics. That's a fall from grace. Still Arby's, or sorry, Arby's. See, Arby's is trash, but Olive Garden is trash. I mean, how do you mess up Italian food like that bad? Um, Olive Garden has a similar situation to what I've joked about with people defending Arby's, which is people say, "Oh man, Olive Garden is great. You get unlimited salad and breadsticks." If you are hanging your hat on breadsticks, okay, granted, those are good breadsticks, but that's the best you got. If you know, anyway, this is kind of I could talk for 10 minutes on this topic, but anyway, the hot take was about comics. This hot take was that everyone who is intelligent in comics is already rich. Okay, that's an interesting hot take. The thing is, there's some definite truth to that. Now, yeah, two extremes. Obviously, there are people who are just entering the industry. They haven't had the chance to build up that wealth yet. People who are, 5 years or less in comics, they're still on that progression. So definitely, excluding that. And then I think there's another factor, which is probably what we will talk about the most here in this video. But I don't think it's a one size fits all. But there is some truth to that. I think the truth kind of it's like it scales up as you go down. Now, if any of you have ever been to a financial planner or any kind of, or going to those websites where it's like, hey, let's put in your age and here's where you should be, right? There's benchmarks for your financial future. If by the way, if you're hearing this and you have no idea what I'm talking about, stop listening to me on YouTube right now. Go plug in like how much wealth should I have accumulated by whatever your age is, and then just go down the rabbit hole. And you should be paying attention to this. But Perch, I'm only 22. Absolutely, you should be paying attention to this at 22. Figure out what it's going to take to not work for people. That's a good thing. Anyway, I think that the longer you go in comics, if you've been in comics like 35 years and you are poor, I think that God, this is going to piss people off because there's definitely exceptions to this rule. But I think that one of the following things has happened to you. Either number one, you've blown your money in some crazy, you've given it to a Saudi Arabian prince. You've got a gambling problem. I don't know what something. It's your money is gone somehow through your own devices. Or two, you were never really all in on comics. You were, mainly pursuing a different job, and comics was kind of the side hobby. So you never really had a chance. You never really put yourself in the position to make money off of comics. You were kind of on the periphery. Or number three, and number three is through either kind of fits number one, either through your own actions or through, very awful people. Someone, meaning you or someone else, has thoroughly sabotaged you in this industry. Um, this would be the case where you have, you're, for lack of a better word, you've come in, you've pissed off the wrong people, you're hard to work with, some of that, it's your own making. But I would argue that that is also a sign of intelligence. People often view intelligence as, oh, this person knows how to handle money, and this person has a business degree, or this person is, kind of, what is it? Intellectual intelligence. Sure, that's intelligence. But another part of intelligence is just situational awareness, good common sense, being able to navigate from letting your time get sucked up by insane losers, whatever it happens to be, being unaware of kind of what's going on, letting your career get dictated by other people where you don't have a good handle on it. All those things are actually a sign of intelligence as well. If I have very good friend, and he has always struggled to hold on to money. And the biggest reason is he is on his sixth, that's one, two, three, four, five, sixth marriage. And he marries people, it lasts like 2 years, and then he winds up giving away a lot of his money, always shells out for a very expensive wedding, all this kind of, and just his money is in this revolving, toilet flush of, of brides, basically. And at some point, and then a divorce comes, and he gives away more money and all the rest. Half of those divorces had no prenup. So I mean, it's just and so on one level, he's like, oh man, these women screwed me. That's one of his constant refrains. These women, they tricked me, they screwed me, they conned me, and this is the kind of thing that, if you're friends with somebody, you always think that you should say, but sometimes you're not in the position to say it. And I'm not like besties, with this guy. I don't use the word besties for actually anyone, but that's a different story. But anyway, I'm not best friends with this guy. I'm just, friends. I will buy a beer, but I buy a beer to everybody. I'm now questioning the use of my use of the word friends, which I'm quickly learning is very fluid. But anyway, I just passed an Olive Garden too on the road. There you have it. Looks trashy, as you would expect. Hey, there's an Arby's coming up as well. Anyway, this guy's always talking about how other people screwed him, but in reality, you have to kind of go, well, you screwed yourself, because at by the time you're rolling around to wife number 4, maybe you shouldn't get married. Maybe you definitely should have a prenup. Maybe you ought to wait longer than the traditional 3 to 6 months of dating before you get married. You kind of like, yeah, I mean, these women, multiple of them had affairs on the guy, and that led to the divorce, and there are various other things. So the behavior, that the cheating and the other stuff's not good behavior. No, make no mistake about it. She's not. The women aren't guilt free in this situation. However, it's hard to feel super sorry for the guy who is, on the 6th marriage, right? Just like it's kind of hard to feel too sorry for the person who's, in their 30s, 40s, and they're basically making nothing on comics. They've saved none of their money and everything else. The hard part is, I mean, yeah, there's been. I think part of working in the creative industry is you take chances. Not all those chances pay off. That's fine. So God, it's tough, because there's very good people I know who are obviously working in comics, not rich. I think they're smart people. I don't want to insult them. I think they're good people. And they're just it hasn't clicked, or there hasn't been the right break or anything else. There's no smoking gun here of some disaster that was self-inflicted. But it just hasn't worked out. Yeah, God, this is a hard one. I'm actually curious to see what the comments are, because I think people are going to be relatively harsh on this one. But I don't think it's completely clean cut. I think it's one of those things that there is truth to that, for sure. I think that if you are intelligent and focused, maybe it's more than just intelligent. There's some other, there's a little bit of luck in there. There's a little bit of just very savvy politically. Being able to kind of network and know the right people, get the right things going. I mean, I think there's a handful of that stuff. But the problem in comics is that first of all, there's not a lot of money in comics, period. So it's not like a normal business where, where if you're smart and plan carefully, then your odds of success are very high. In comics, you can just get hit by a train from the side for out of nowhere, and that can absolutely happen, and derail kind of a lot of the things that you're working on. So that's where it's not purely intelligence by any stretch of imagination. However, I think that if you are smart, if you are savvy, if you are hardworking, if you understand delayed gratification, to get your work done, then party. Um, I think that you're basically putting yourself in the position to be successful, and I think intelligence has a lot to do with that. Both kind of book smarts and street smarts, if you will, level intelligence. I think that's the way you do it. The people, actually, in fairness, the people who I've met who are not wealthy in comics, but happy and normal, happy and sane. There's people who have chosen to do various things in their life, whether it's a lifestyle of how they live, or whether it's kind of the places where they've decided to be, or whatever else. They're not rich, but they're not unhappy about it. Meaning they're getting out of comics what they want to get out of comics. Does that make any sense? So that's that's somebody who's at peace with what they've done. I think there's a lot of people like that, where they're not they're not rich, but they're not unhappy about it. I think the people who are in comics miserable, complaining, and then they're spending 20 hours a day on social media dicking around, or they are in multiple Facebook groups trying to figure out which person they want to go after and hurt. I think those are the people where there is a lack of intelligence, there's a lack of success. I don't know, this is a tangled situation for sure. If this was like the tech industry or the pharmaceutical industry or a place like that, then I think it is more cut and dry that, all the smart people are rich for sure. I think, again, unless you're choosing not to be for various reasons, but you're making that choice. But in comics, I think it's mostly true. I just think it's too easy for random events to derail you. And I think that's where some unpredictability comes into play. I think that if you are, it's just because the people who, in some cases, in charge of the wealth. Now, bear in mind, I think that's changing, because I think now more than ever, there's an opportunity for individual creators to be in charge of their own money, where they can actually publish the book themselves. They can crowdfund. They can write their own indie deals. Everything else, but 15 years ago, not really. You're kind of at the mercy of a bunch of industries and people who at times would choose to punish you for no reason. Just, you're not one of their friends. Therefore, you're getting screwed. I mean, there's just, it was very unpredictable, and it still is largely unpredictable. And it's one of the reasons why I think this new world that we're moving into, where people have more control over their destiny and where things are going, is going to be better off for everyone, particularly the hardworking, intelligent people that will have more control over their own wealth. Right now, if you are in comics and you are a reasonable, hardworking person, have a good style and everything else, you should be buddying up with whoever you need to get that crowdfunded book out. You should do one right now. Regardless of how much it makes, you need to get one under your belt. You need to show that you can. You need to have that experience. You need to see what that looks like, because it will teach you a lot. It will help you a lot. Doesn't mean you're going to be wealthy. I think one of the giant myths right now, and I see it pop up in my comments on a regular basis, that all the crowdfunding books are making people rich. No, actually, no. Many of them are not. Whether the campaign doesn't succeed, or whether logistically there's things that were unexpected. The shipping internationally was a burden that people didn't expect. There's lots of situations, where you may not, it may not work. So it is not a sure bet. However, partner up with somebody who's done it before. Partner up with somebody reasonable, good common sense. Get a crowdfunded book out there. See what that's like. Whatever you do, don't partner up with someone and let them do all the work. Be the person observing everything. Learn. because I don't think crowdfunding is the end solution to everything. Far from it. But I think there's several business lessons and things you can take and learn from it that will make you stronger with whatever comes next, whether it's more of a bundling option, whether it's this kind of digital on demand stuff or all you can eat type content, whatever it happens to be, go do it. I would say, as another piece of advice, go, buddy up to some mangaka studio over in Japan, but that is much harder proposition to do. Get a crowdfunded book out there. Try it. I think it's absolutely critical for you to do it. But anyway, what do you think? So let's hear your takes in the comments below. Don't be too brutal, please. But I think that is everybody intelligent in comics rich? That's an interesting one to think about. Certainly a lot of nuance to that question. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.